Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the fascinating, kind of invisible forces that completely bypass our logic and dictate our spending habits. We aren't just talking about making simple grocery lists here, right? We're exploring the precise, behind-the-scenes cognitive mechanics that drive our financial decisions. And the crazy part? It happens without us even consciously realizing it most of the time. By the end of this, you are going to have a totally new, scientifically grounded lens for looking at your very next transaction.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever bought something you absolutely positively did not need? Come on, be honest with yourself. And then, I don't know, maybe a day or a week later, you're just holding that item, looking at it and wondering what sort of psychological glitch caused you to buy it in the first place. It's a totally universal phenomenon. We constantly find our homes filled with stuff serving zero practical utility. So what's actually happening in our brains when this cognitive lapse happens? Let's get into it.
Section 1. The impulse buy. You see, there's this profound disconnect between the physical things we actually require for survival and the feelings we really want to experience. The core truth of modern consumer behavior: utility is almost always secondary. We buy because of the emotional state a product promises us. It's this fascinating thing called cognitive conflation. Our brains literally cross their wires. We mix up the act of buying a physical object with acquiring a new personality trait, or like an elevated mood. The item, it's just the delivery vehicle for that feeling. We aren't really checking out with a physical good. We're actually transacting for an emotional outcome.
Section 2. Internal emotional triggers. Shopping provides this deeply ingrained emotional payoff, and it's driven almost entirely by neurochemistry. A simple purchase triggers a sudden, temporary burst of excitement. What you're actually experiencing right then is a massive spike in dopamine. But here's the really wild part. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's about the anticipation of pleasure. The biggest spike happens right before you swipe that card, all driven by the anticipated reward. Sometimes buying something just gives us this fleeting sense of control over our world. We picked it out, we bought it, we own it, or it acts as this rapid boost to our social standing. You secure a new gadget or a designer piece, and your brain registers a status increase, which just reinforces that whole loop. We are perpetually chasing that quick hit to elevate our baseline mood.
But there's a flip side to this chemical reaction, a much darker, highly reactive side to our spending habits. We don't just shop to optimize feeling good. We frequently shop to anesthetize feeling bad. Think about how often we buy things simply because we're completely stressed out or experiencing cognitive overload. Or maybe we're just deeply bored, seeking a rapid dopamine distraction. Loneliness is actually a statistically massive driver for consumer behavior. And then, of course, there's the classic trap of retail therapy, trying to reward ourselves after a totally brutal day. The underlying problem here is that retail therapy is a wildly ineffective coping mechanism. We're trying to medicate complex negative emotions with commercial transactions, and that only offers the absolute briefest of reliefs before our baseline reality just comes rushing back.
Section 3. External shopping traps.
Now, the external marketplace understands these internal emotional drivers perfectly, and they structure the entire environment to weaponize them against us. It usually starts with a meticulously crafted ad. This isn't just showcasing a product. Marketers are employing advanced choice architecture to make you imagine this idealized version of your life that supposedly hinges on owning this specific item. Then, boom, comes the psychological pressure of the limited time offer. That's the scarcity principle in action. By engineering false urgency, they simulate a threat to your freedom of choice, forcing immediate action. The whole system is optimized to make sure you convert the sale before your prefrontal cortex, the logical, reasoning part of your brain, actually has time to override the impulsivity of your emotional amygdala.
And if traditional advertising wasn't potent enough, the digital era and social media act as absolute superchargers for these behavioral traps. As you scroll, you are just relentlessly exposed to what others own. This triggers a psychological phenomenon known as mimetic desire. It's this concept that our desires aren't actually innate. We simply learn what to want by observing what other people possess. Social media creates this curated, artificial reality that dictates the baseline for happiness and status. It completely hijacks our social hardwiring, making it incredibly difficult to resist keeping up with those artificial benchmarks.
Section 4. The post-purchase reality. And this is precisely where the entire cycle breaks down and reality sets in. The underlying problem with emotional spending is the profound mismatch between the feeling and the cost. That emotional high, the anticipated reward, that dopamine surge we were just talking about,
It vanishes almost immediately upon taking possession of the item. This rapid neurological crash often triggers acute buyer's remorse. It's a form of cognitive dissonance, where your brain recognizes the stark mismatch between the emotional expectation and the physical reality. Yet, while the dopamine dissipates instantly, the financial liability stays with you long after the shiny newness has faded into the background. You're ultimately left financing a physiological feeling that has completely evaporated.
Section 5. The one-question antidote.
If you take only one single concept away from this explainer, let it be this exact quote. The next time you feel that sudden, overwhelming urge to buy something, I want you to intentionally slow down and just hit pause. Force yourself to stop and ask this absolutely powerful question. Do I actually need this, or do I just want the feeling this purchase promises? This intentional pause acts as a literal circuit breaker for your neural pathways. By forcing yourself to articulate the difference between the physical utility of the item and the emotional promise it holds, you are deliberately re-engaging your prefrontal cortex. You're bringing your logical, executive functioning back online, allowing it to successfully override those reactive, emotional impulses. Utilizing this one psychological tool can genuinely save you money and permanently dismantle the cycle of impulse buying.
Which brings us to our final takeaway today. When you start regularly implementing that cognitive pause, you're going to discover something incredibly profound about yourself. Your spending reveals a tremendous amount about your baseline emotional health. Think about it. Every single receipt is essentially a diagnostic window into your psychological state at that exact moment in time. Were you overwhelmed? Seeking validation? Trying to regain a sense of control? So, I'll leave you with this to ponder long after we wrap up here. If we completely opened up your bank statement right now, what story would it tell about how you've been feeling lately? Thank you so much for joining me to decode this fascinating topic, and I will see you next time.